Martial World Teyvat Chapter 21, Fan Fiction by Azazyel. Thankfully, despite Yelan being far stronger than I, or even Keqing, I learned that she was honestly rather chill despite being a nascent soul cultivator. Actually, she was honestly entirely too social, as she had no problems talking with the guards and Keqing and myself as she set up the array that would protect this factory from monsters. So Jake, when do you plan to begin sending materials to Liyue for all the hard work we have been doing to keep you alive, and secure this facility? Yelan asked randomly, and I gave her an odd look before answering bluntly. As soon as trustworthy people come over here to traffic the goods to Liyue. Or do I need to make a whole system of transportation to send stuff from here to Liyue? I asked dryly. Yelan gave me an amused smile with a raised eyebrow at my retort, but Keqing actually sighed and spoke with some exasperation coloring her voice. And what mind-shattering idea have you cooked up now? I coughed at her expression, and then both girls' faces went dull as I spoke. So I could create some ultra-light planes with only a short flight path, and some people who are trusted or having some kind of magical bindings on them could deliver spatial tools carrying the materials that would be key to Lady Ningguang, who can just unlock and dump the spatial tools interior somewhere. That, or I was thinking a train system with the rails built atop pillars of concrete or metal itself. We can make a rail line above the ground a good bit, which will keep it safe from the majority of lesser monsters. I explained quickly. But Yelan instead tilted her head to the side and asked with confusion. What in the world is a plane, and how would it allow a mortal to fly when only peak tier 3 cultivators can fly? Oh God. These dumbasses are so focused on cutting through the void with their cocks, swords, and punching through mountains that they have zero idea what science and physics are. I thought with despair as I pulled a hand down my face in exasperation, and then I stumbled as Yelan flexed a bit of her power and then seemingly glided into the air with her arms wrapped around her chest as she looked down at me. Which reminded me that natural science wasn't really all that naturally attractive, to be fair. For people who can punch through mountains, why would they explore gunpowder? If someone could naturally fly, why would they explore the laws that make their weak forms unable to fly when they could make the world's laws bend to their power and will? It was just a different perspective of life, and at that realization I coughed and then spoke out with a smile as I committed those thoughts to memory. Basically, with enough speed and proper angles to catch the wind, you can fly, to put simply. There was a hungry look in Yelan's eyes as she hummed and looked around the factory, and then she asked bluntly, "Are you busy now then?" To which I shook my head, and she said, with her arms lifting her large breasts up as she laid one of her fingers on her chin as she was in clear thought as she was speaking. "Then make one of these planes. If you do so, I will make you an offensive charm that can kill even tier 3 entities. A tier 4 defensive charm that can block 3 full attacks from a mid-tier nascent soul like myself, and I will give you a special treasure. I have a spatial talisman that will teleport you 3,000 leagues in a random direction so that not even a peak nascent soul can track you down should you need to flee." I gave a quick look to Keqing, and she nodded seriously, meaning that the deal was good, so I shrugged, and with such a great reward to be offered I spoke more seriously. "So with such a reward, is there something specific you want the plane to do? Deliver people simply and not carry much weight? Or do you want a cargo?" But before I could continue, Yelan held up a hand and then said quietly, "Those guns you previously showed off. And the gun you made for Keqing that could even kill and cripple a golden core demon, could you make guns that would fit on such a plane that low-level cultivators like the soldiers of Liyue could use?" Oh shit. She wants heavy weaponry. I thought with some trepidation, and then I had a vision of me leading the cultivation version of China or Liyue on a grand expedition to take over the world with AC-130 gunships flying through the air and blowing up monsters and detractors. And Keqing could see my face, and having been with me for the last week, basically she groaned as she pointed at me dramatically. "Oh hell no. You cannot tell me it will just be running off water or something, right?" My lips twitched, and then as I realized I could use spirit stones as basically nuclear fuel to fuel the engines in my head with the steam forming from the spiritual energy boiling water. "Oh. Why does looking at you make me feel stupid?" Keqing demanded, shaking me by my collar before throwing her hands up as she screamed as she left the room, leaving me with Yelan, who looked at me with her blue slitted eyes with entirely too much intensity. Those eyes bore into me, and for a long moment there was silence as the sounds of Keqing's outraged scream faded into nothingness until she finally broke the silence with her tone being cold and dull. "Jake Barris, do you know why I want weapons for mortals and untalented martial artists and cultivators to use?" She asked rhetorically, and I shook my head as I didn't want to guess. But she didn't mind explaining, with her words being cold and blunt. "Keqing is the only golden core or Xiantian cultivator/martial artist in the entire Millelith." "Why is that?" "Because cultivators or martial artists who have the talent would rather join up with a sect or clan to reach a higher level with better resources and actual teachers who have even reached the Saint Realm or above." She finished with her closed eyes, showing how distressed she was at this. "Ningguang and I are the only Nascent Souls or Tier 4 beings in Liyue. The rest are all attached to the clans in the city, and although our god figure in Rex Lapis and his disciples offer their protection from the divine sect in Jiankarst to the north, that doesn't change the fact that at our core we are lacking peak strength. So I want you to turn our lesser fighters into greater threats with your machines." She finished strongly, with her stepping into my personal space with her breasts pushing against my chest as she seemingly was trying to beam the ideal into my head with her slitted eyes so close to my own. "And to that end," I took a breath and then said softly, "then clear out the surrounding mountains. If you want war machines, then I will need room to build them." And in that moment I knew I had made a friend, as Yelan's eyes tightened on my form and she slowly withdrew, and with her cloak lightly brushing almost seductively across my chest as she turned away and opened the door, I was left with her saying, "Very well then. Making a Nascent Soul assassin do menial work like landscaping. You are certainly the first, I say." She finished teasingly as she stepped out of the metal room with her heels clicking loudly before abruptly going silent as she obviously took to the air.